She was thrown into the desert to die twice. The first time, she was young, pregnant, running from abuse. The second time, she was desperate, watching her teenage son collapse from thirst while she turned away. Because she couldn't bear to see him take his last breath. Twice the desert tried to swallow her. Twice she had no water, no hope, no way forward. Twice she should have died, but she didn't. Because someone saw her. Ever felt so invisible, you wondered if anyone would notice if you disappeared? Ever been used by people who were supposed to care for you, then thrown away when you weren't useful anymore? Ever cried out and wondered if anyone at all, could hear you? Then this is your story. Because Hagar wasn't a prophet, wasn't royalty, wasn't anyone important. She was a slave, an outsider. A woman so invisible in her world that most people never bothered learning her name. But she became the first person in all of Scripture to give God a name. El Roi, the God who sees me. Type ELROI in the comments right now. El Roi. ELROI, the God who sees me. Type ELROI if you've ever felt invisible, forgotten, thrown away. Type ELROI if you need to know that someone, somewhere, sees your pain and hasn't forgotten you. Because in the next hour, you're going to discover 3 things. First, how a throwaway slave survived 2 desert death sentences and lived to tell about it. Second, what happens when the God of the universe shows up for someone the world has decided doesn't matter. And third, why your invisibility might be positioning you for an encounter with the divine that will change everything. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Share this with someone who feels invisible right now. Someone who needs to know they're seen. I want you in this conversation. Now let's meet Hagar. Picture a world where women are property, where your value is measured by your ability to produce sons, where being barren isn't just unfortunate. It's a curse that marks you as rejected by the gods. This is the world of Sarai, wife of Abram. She's beautiful, intelligent, loyal. She left everything she knew to follow her husband into the unknown, chasing a promise from a God she couldn't see. The promise was simple and impossible. I will make you into a great nation. I will give you descendants as numerous as stars. One problem. Sarai's womb is empty, has always been empty. She's now in her 70s. Decades of waiting. Decades of watching other women cradle babies while her arms remain achingly empty. Decades of feeling the weight of shame every time someone asks about children. The promise hangs over their tent like smoke. Visible, but untouchable. Present, but unreachable. And Sarai, she's done waiting. She has a plan. A legal plan, actually. The law codes of their time explicitly permit it. If a wife is barren, she can give her slave to her husband to produce an heir. The child belongs to the wife. The slave is just, well, a vessel, a means to an end, a solution to a problem. Sarai has a slave, an Egyptian girl named Hagar, young, maybe early 20s, dark eyes, bronze skin, a survivor. Her name means foreigner, the stranger, the one who doesn't belong. We don't know how Hagar came to be in Abram's household. Jewish tradition says she was a princess, Pharaoh's daughter, given to Sarai as a peace offering after divine plagues struck Egypt. Whether that's history or legend doesn't change the essential truth. Hagar was ripped from everything she knew and reduced to a single word: slave. And now, Sarai has a new use for her. Go to my slave, Hagar. Sleep with her. Maybe I can build a family through her. It's not a request. It's a command. Hagar has no choice, no voice, no option to refuse. She's property. She does what she's told. So Abram sleeps with Hagar, and Hagar conceives. Here's what happens next. And this is where it gets messy and human and so achingly real. Hagar realizes she's pregnant with Abram's child. Abram, the patriarch, the man who hears from God, the man whose descendants will be as numerous as stars. And she's carrying that descendant, her the slave, the foreigner, the nobody. And something shifts inside her. For the first time in her life, Hagar has value, real value. She's carrying the heir, the promise, the future. And she knows it. Scripture says she began to despise Sarah. The Hebrew word suggests contempt, looking down on. Hagar's status has changed. She's no longer just the slave. She's the mother of Abram's son. And Sarai, the barren wife, the woman who couldn't do the one thing women are supposed to do. Sarai is suddenly beneath her. Can you feel the tension? Can you sense the powder keg? Sarai did this. She orchestrated this. She gave her husband to her slave, and now the slave is looking at her with contempt. Sarai explodes. She goes to Abram. "This is your fault. I gave you my slave, and now that she's pregnant, she despises me. May the Lord judge between you and me." Abram's response is calculated and cowardly. "She's your slave. Do whatever you want with her." Translation: I'm washing my hands of this. You created this mess. You fix it. And Sarai does fix it by crushing Hagar under the weight of her fury. Scripture says Sarai mistreated her. The Hebrew word suggests oppression, affliction, humiliation. Whatever Sarai does, it's bad enough that Hagar makes a desperate choice. She runs. Imagine you're Hagar. You're pregnant, maybe 3 or 4 months. You're alone. You have no money, no provisions, no plan. You just know you can't stay. The abuse is too much. The humiliation too deep. So you run into the wilderness. The wilderness between Canaan and Egypt is a death trap. Scorching sun, no shade, limited water, wild animals, bandits. It doesn't care about your desperation. It will kill you without thinking twice. Hagar makes it to a spring. Bir Lahai Roi, the well of the living one who sees me. She collapses there, pregnant, exhausted, dying. And that's when he appears. The angel of the Lord found her. That's what Scripture says, found her. As if God was searching. As if among all the people in the world, God was looking specifically for a runaway slave collapsed by a desert well. Hagar, slave of Sarai. Where have you come from, and where are you going? It's the first time in Scripture that God addresses a woman directly, not through a husband, not through a father, directly, by name, to a slave, an Egyptian, an outsider. Hagar, where are you going? I'm running away from my mistress, Sarai. Return to your mistress. Submit to her authority. Wait. God is telling her to go back? Back to the abuse? Back to the humiliation? Back to the place that drove her into a death desert? Yes, but not without a promise. I will multiply your offspring, so that they cannot be counted. You are pregnant with a son. You will name him Ishmael. God hears, because the Lord has heard your cry of affliction. He will be a wild donkey of a man. He will be fierce and free. He will live in hostility with everyone, but he will be great. Hagar stares at this divine messenger, and something breaks open inside her, because for the first time in her life, someone sees her, really sees her, not as property, not as a vessel, not as a problem to be solved, as a person, with a name, with pain, with a future. And Hagar speaks. She names God. She becomes the first person in all of Scripture to give the Almighty a name. You are El Roi, the God who sees me. She looks at the well, at the place where death met divinity, and she names it Bir Lahai Roi, the well of the living one who sees me. Then she goes back to Sarai, back to the abuse. But she goes differently. She goes as someone who has been seen, someone who matters, someone who carries a promise. She gives birth to Ishmael. Abram is 86 years old, and for 13 years, Ishmael is the heir, the only son, the promise. But you can't run from God forever, even when you're running to him. 13 years pass. Hagar raises Ishmael in Abram's household, watches him grow into a boy, then a young man, fierce, free, wild like his mother. Then everything changes. God appears to Abram again, changes his name to Abraham, changes Sarai's name to Sarah, and gives them the impossible promise again. You will have a son. Sarah, at 90 years old, will conceive and bear a son, and that son will carry the covenant. Sarah laughs. Abraham laughs. It's too absurd, too impossible. But a year later, Sarah gives birth to Isaac. Laughter. The child of promise, the miracle baby. And suddenly, Ishmael isn't the heir anymore. For a few years, both boys grow up together. Half-brothers. Same father, different mothers. Same household, different destinies. The tension simmers, but doesn't boil over, until the day of Isaac's weaning celebration. In their culture, weaning happens around age 3. It's a huge celebration. Isaac has survived infancy. He's going to live. The promise is secure. Abraham throws a feast. Everyone celebrates. Everyone, except Hagar. Sarah sees something that day. Scripture says she saw Ishmael mocking Isaac. The Hebrew can mean mocking, playing with, or laughing. We don't know exactly what happened. Maybe Ishmael was teasing. Maybe he was playing too rough. Maybe he made a joke about being the older son. Whatever it was, Sarah sees it and reaches her breaking point. Get rid of that slave woman and her son. The son of that slave will not share the inheritance with my son Isaac. Abraham is distressed, deeply distressed. Ishmael is his son too, his firstborn. 13 years of raising him, loving him, teaching him, and Sarah wants him gone. But God speaks. Listen to Sarah. Send them away. Ishmael is not the son of promise. Isaac is. But I will make Ishmael into a nation too, because he's your offspring. So early the next morning, Abraham does the unthinkable. He takes bread and a skin of water, gives them to Hagar, puts them on her shoulders, along with the boy, and sends them away into the desert, with one skin of water, one loaf of bread, to die. Abraham knew what he was doing. You don't survive the desert of Beersheba with a skin of water. This wasn't exile. This was execution. Slow, agonizing, but execution nonetheless. And Hagar goes, takes Ishmael's hand, and walks into the wilderness for the second time. Picture this. Hagar is maybe in her late 30s now. Ishmael is a teenager, probably 13 or 14. They walk, and walk, and walk. The sun beats down. The water runs out. Ishmael starts to fail. He's young. The heat is too much. His lips crack. His eyes sink. His steps stumble. He collapses under a thorn bush. And Hagar makes a choice. She walks about a bow shot away, maybe 100 yards, and she sits down. Turns her back, because she cannot watch her son die. Don't let me see the boy die, she says. And she lifts up her voice and weeps. Have you ever been there? Have you ever faced something so unbearable that you literally couldn't look? Have you ever felt so helpless, so powerless, that all you could do was turn away and cry? Hagar is at the absolute end. No water, no hope, no options. Her son is dying. She's dying. It's over. 20 years ago, she ran into this desert pregnant and alone. And God showed up. She named him El Roi, the God who sees me. But now she's not running away. She was sent away, thrown away, discarded, used up, finished. And where is the God who sees? That's when Scripture says something stunning. God heard the boy crying, not Hagar, the boy. Ishmael, lying under a bush, dying of thirst, crying out in his final moments. And God heard him. The angel of God called to Hagar from heaven. Hagar, what's wrong? Don't be afraid. God has heard the boy's cry. Go, lift up the boy, hold him. I will make him into a great nation. Then God opened her eyes. That phrase, God opened her eyes. It suggests that something was there all along. But Hagar couldn't see it. She was blinded by despair, blinded by hopelessness, blinded by the certainty of death. But God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. It was there. The whole time, right there. Within reach. But she couldn't see it until God opened her eyes. She runs to the well, fills the skin, gives the water to the boy. He drinks. and drinks and drinks. His eyes clear. His strength returns. He lives. God was with the boy, Scripture says, and he grew up in the wilderness. He became an expert archer. His mother found him a wife from Egypt, and he became the father of a great nation, just as God promised. So what does this mean for you today? What does Hagar's story, this ancient tale of deserts and desperation, have to do with your life right now? Everything. Because Hagar's story is your story, my story. The story of anyone who's ever felt thrown away, used up, invisible. Maybe you're in your first desert right now, young, maybe not literally pregnant, but carrying something precious, something God-given, and people who should have protected you have hurt you instead. You're running, desperate, collapsing by whatever well you can find, and you're wondering if anyone sees. Hear this: God sees you, not as a project, not as a problem, as a person, with a name, with pain, with purpose. He's searching for you right now. He knows where you are. He knows what you've endured. He knows your name. Or maybe you're in the second desert. This one hurts worse because you thought you were done. You survived before. You were seen before. You were provided for before. But now you're back in the wilderness. And this time feels different. This time feels final. The water's run out. The ones you love are dying, and you're sitting with your back turned because you can't bear to watch. Hear this: God hears not just your cry, the cries of those you love. He hasn't forgotten his promises. He hasn't abandoned you in the desert. There is a well. It's closer than you think, but you need God to open your eyes. Because here's what both deserts teach us. Survival isn't about your strength. It's not about your cleverness, or your resources, or your ability to see a way forward. Survival is about God showing up, God seeing, God opening eyes to resources you couldn't find on your own. Hagar didn't find the well because she was smart. She found it because God opened her eyes. The well was there all along. She was dying of thirst, within reach of life-giving water. Not because the water didn't exist, because she couldn't see it. How many of us are doing that right now? Dying of thirst while sitting next to a well. Collapsing in despair while provision is an arm's length away. Convinced it's over while God is already preparing the miracle. God opened her eyes. That's what you need to pray. Not give me a miracle, but open my eyes to see what you've already provided. Help me see what I'm missing. Show me the well that's been there all along. Type LROI one more time in the comments. The God who sees me. If this story has touched something in you, if you recognize yourself in Hagar's journey, if you need to be reminded today that you're not invisible, that someone sees your pain, that your story isn't over, and then share this. You know someone in a desert right now, someone who feels thrown away, someone who's watching their dreams die under a thorn bush, someone who needs to know that God hasn't forgotten them, that he sees, that he hears, that there's a well nearby if they'll just let him open their eyes. Hit that like button so this message reaches more people who need it. Subscribe, turn on notifications, leave a comment. Tell me, which desert are you in? The first one, where you're discovering that God sees you. Or the second one, where you're remembering that he provides when you can't see a way. I want to hear your stories, because Hagar's story is an ancient history, locked in dusty scrolls. It's alive in every person who's ever felt invisible and discovered they're seen. In every person who survived impossible circumstances, because God opened their eyes to resources they didn't know existed. You are not invisible. You are not forgotten. You are not beyond the reach of divine love. God sees you right now, in whatever wilderness you're wandering, in whatever desert is trying to swallow you. He sees you. He knows your name. He hears your cries, even the ones you haven't voiced, and he has not finished your story. Hagar survived the desert twice. You can survive your wilderness too, not because you're strong enough, but because the God who saw Hagar sees you, and he specializes in opening eyes to wells you never knew were there. So go, step back into your life, but go differently. Go as someone who is seen, someone who matters, someone whose story isn't defined by who threw them away, but by the God who found them in the desert. And when you're tempted to doubt that, when the wilderness feels overwhelming and the water's running low, remember El Roy, the God who sees me. He's watching. He's listening. And he's already preparing the well you're about to discover. This is your story. And like Hagar's, it's not over yet.